Ja, vite. 30 secondes, maar wacht even, want ik moet... Ja.
Dans une foire d'art,
Oui.
est-ce que l'art peut être autre chose qu'un objet de spéculation?
Oui, absolument, parce que j'ai mentionné des catégories difficiles, différentes, par exemple des collectionneurs qui collectionnent à cause de leur statut social, ou bien qui accumulent, ou bien ce sont des collectionneurs qui sont des investisseurs. Mais j'ai oublié une chose, c'est qu'il y a aussi des collectionneurs qui appartiennent à un groupe que j'appelle Zero Money Collecting. Et Zero Money Collecting, ça n'a rien à voir avec spéculation, avec un objet de marchandise, mais il y a certaines choses comme des cartons d'invitation, comme des archives, comme des petits trucs qui sont très importants, et ça devient de plus en plus important parce qu'aujourd'hui, les meilleurs directeurs du musée, les meilleurs curators, les meilleurs critiques ne considèrent plus la collection comme une espèce de propriété exclusive, mais comme un archive. Et dans un archive, aussi les choses qui ne sont pas encore entrées dedans comptent. Ça, c'est la différence entre collection et archive. Et ici, il y a plein de choses qui appartiennent plutôt à l'idée de l'archive qu'à l'idée de la collection. Voilà.
Tu veux dire que la collection, c'est le business et les archives, c'est le cœur?
Non, la collection, c'est pas seulement du business, mais il y a plus que collection, il y a plus que propriété. Non. Moi, je pense que le futur des collections, c'est de les considérer étant collection comme archive.
This talk, the extra mile, engaged collecting beyond from the private museum and beyond. I'd like to introduce our guests. First, Chris Dercon, who is going to moderate the panel. Chris needs no introduction. You all know him as the director of Tate and of course all his previous activities. Sandra Mullier from Paris, the founder of SAM Art Projects, which she'll talk about. Dimitri Deskalopoulos from Athens, my hometown, who is a collector and also the founder of a new foundation, the Dercon Foundation, which he'll talk about today. And of course Guy Oelens de Schoten, who is the founder of the UCCA in Beijing. I'd like to say just very briefly a couple of words about the subject of the panel. There are many forms of collecting. There are different ways of collecting, and indeed we have other panels on ephemeral collecting, immaterial collecting. As the public sector shrinks in art, the private sector grows, becoming healthier. There's more and more collectors, more institutions, more spaces, more private museum. I would say that the act of collecting, in fact, is thriving. But what we are going to discuss here today is a different form of collecting. It's a form of collecting that goes beyond the sort of standardized accumulation and showcasing of objects and looks at how collectors support artists and the production of art in the long term, how they go this extra mile beyond the standardized form of the showcase collection. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over the floor to Chris to thank you all very much for being here, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you, Katrina. Just a technical question. I think it would be nice to hand over the microphones to the speakers and to make sure that they do work, because they might be want to interject. Can you just test your microphones?
Hello.
Yep. This is Sandra. Sandra, say 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Okay. Dimitris, 1, 2, 3. Guy. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. Before we will start to talk about these different collectors, and I do believe that Sandra and Dimitris and Guy are very different collectors. I would just like to put on the table a little bit what we do know about the soft science of collecting. Together with a friend who is himself a collector, I try to come up with some categories of the collectors we know. And there are many of them here and at Art Cologne, and there are a couple of categories. And in order to understand how different these people are, I would like just to name a few of these categories. First category is, of course, the I like art collector. And the I like art collector is not just like Facebook, I like, dislike, it is a little bit like that. But the I like accumulating style, the I like art collector, is the most common type of art collector. It is in fact a mere accumulation of artworks kept together by a specific liking or a possible taste. And this is then the first stage, namely to buy simply what one likes. The second category is, hello Maurizio, welcome. The second category is the investor collecting style, and this is self-explanatory because its purpose is being clearly return on investment. And this does not imply immediately a value judgment. It is a specific market expertise which is required, and often these collectors who are belonging to the investors collecting style, they depend on consultants, and we know that today there are more curators than artists, and I believe that today there are even more consultants than curators. And collecting in this style is often by ear rather than by an eye. And then there is the status collecting style. And the status collecting style is a type of art collector which is now beginning to proliferate worldwide. You see the same works of art which are often bought from auction houses from New York to Jakarta, and all these works are looking alike. It's a question of being expensive. They have to cost more than $150,000 because otherwise it's not status. Then you have the website collecting style of art, and the website collecting style of art has to do with the fact that we have many new collectors of new regions, and they only believe what they see on the web and in the auction houses. I know a couple of collectors from Kazakhstan who say to me, I'm not going to galleries because they are liars. So I only believe the web. And we call them the web collecting style collectors. And then there is the focused collecting style. And that's an interesting one because the focused collecting style has to do with a core idea or a concept. And these collectors, they don't make it themselves easy because instead of accumulating, instead of status, they do not believe in addition, but in reduction. They always exclude things. They want to find a discipline. And I do believe that a lot of Belgian art collectors, they belong to the focus collecting style. And the four people sitting here, they're even more than the focus collecting styles. To open the debate, I will start with a quote because I think that the soft science of collecting should start with an enlightened quote by somebody who is an artist but himself also a collector, a focused collector, and that's of course Marcel Duchamp. And Marcel Duchamp once said, the true collector is an artist. He or she chooses paintings and hangs them on the wall. In other words, he paints, she paints himself a collection. And I would like to add to Marcel Duchamp's word, he or she paints a portrait of him or herself. Sandra, when I mention the focused collecting style, the web collecting style, the status collecting style, the investor collecting style, the I like art collecting style, which category you do not want to belong to?
None.
No.
No.
So you are
not,
different.
Not anyone.
Not anyone.
No.
See, now we already getting into the debate. So what is then? How would you describe your collecting style?
Okay. First of all, the collector. I don't even like that word. I don't see myself as a collector. I see myself in what I do today as an enabler, and this is my focus right now. Helping things to happen. This is what I do.
And what's interesting with you, Sandra, and also with Dimitris, but also Maurizio, that the three of you, and I'm going to ask Guy, is that the same for him, that the three of you, you also like to work with the public sector, with public museums. You're working with the Musée d'Art Moderne La Ville de Paris, with the Louvre, with the Palais de Tokyo 3 times a year. Why do you want to work with the greedy public sector, who always say that they are too poor to do anything, and then they come to you?
I have a residency program. I bring artists from all over the world, out of Europe, and they need the best visibility. I did not want to create another place. There are like 173 places in Paris to go and see exhibitions, and half of them are empty. Trois quarts. I wanted my artists to be seen. And I thought the best solution was to have a partnership with the public institutions. If anybody comes to see Baslitz
And there's École Nugroho. They don't know the guy, but they're inside the building. They're going to go and see.
Eko Nugroho is the son of a famous Indonesian filmmaker, Gary Nugroho. He's part of the Yogyakarta art mafia, so to speak, and he needs visibility. But it's interesting, you pick artists from other regions, no? Why are you interested to bring artists from other regions in, like Yogyakarta?
First of all, I'm Brazilian. I've been living in Europe for the past 22 years. And I realized that a lot of these artists who are very well known there have no visibility or not enough in Europe. So the whole project is about that.
And now you make it possible for Nugroho to be shown in the first Indonesian pavilion at the next Biennial of Venice.
I'm very proud that after this big exhibition and all the support we gave to him, he's going to be in the pavilion. It's fantastic.
Dimitris, is that we had discussions about this before, I remember, at the Whitechapel Art Gallery. Besides this whole thing about private museums, which we barely will discuss because it's with a few exceptions, not that interesting, I believe, because the problem is, of course, sustainability. Why is there such a new vogue? Why is there such a new desire to create public-private partnerships? And why do you step in as well? Because you show your collections in the Guggenheim, you show your collections in Edinburgh, in the Whitechapel, you're part of trustees and councils, you give to museums. What is for you the sense of public-private partnership in general? And then I want to talk a little bit about your new foundation to introduce the wider implication of
the principles are the same.
Can you speak in the microphone?
There are particular circumstances in my country that I will come to, but generally speaking, I pay more attention to the public than to the artist. I see a difference here. We are all collectors, and we did not start with any big goals about contributing. We started as collectors, and as it builds up, then you feel a responsibility that you are taking other people's creativity and putting them in a crate, most of the cases, not only in your home. And you realize that art really has a meaning when it discusses or creates emotions with the public. And in that sense, I started my foundation activity and thinking 15, 18 years into my collecting. And if I go to the particular circumstance in my country, we don't have 100 museums or 100 spaces. We have a few, but still quite enough. And in that sense, you don't need to recreate a space which is usually of the type that you said. It's basically a monument to myself, even if you don't say so, or a mausoleum for people to remember you when you're gone. I don't need that. I like to be active with society as it is today, and create controversy and help people, sharpen their minds. And that is where the public institutions come in. They are there, they're well known, they are long-term establishments, they attract people, they can attract more, and we should help them do that. I've had 3 museum exhibitions based on the collection, and I always say it was never an exhibition of my collection. It was an exhibition created by the museum for its public. And they curated it, and they had their public in mind. And that was really the best experience also for me.
Do you think that with the situation in Greece, which is a very difficult and complex situation, whereby many public museums are really in trouble, I think of Thessaloniki, for instance, with the famous Malevich collections, do you think that your foundation, Dercon, has now, there is something very particular at stake in order to help these museums to survive and to continue?
Well, we have an even bigger problem now. We're getting a brand new museum, 25,000 square meters. Last year, in the provisional space they had a 600,000 euro budget to run a museum. Now they'll have 25,000 square meters. So I went to them and said, do you know what problem you have? Do you need any help? And well, part of our activity, I think, should also be stirring things up. Right. And first of all with the public, but also in turning our institutions into a better state where they become sustainable. So.
I don't want to joke about this, but it seems almost with Sandra and you that you're another type of collector, which is the problem collecting style, no? Collecting problems. This guy, Maurizio, he was also working with the public sector, with a museum which basically doesn't exist anymore, Madre, your Fondazione, and we should speak about the meaning of the Fondazione, which is entirely different from La Fondation, which is entirely different from Stichting, which is entirely different from GmbH. In Italy, the Fondazione is something very particular because it's allowed by law, and you're allowed to do things which we in Greece and Belgium and France, we are not allowed to do. But anyway, your Fondazione worked with Madre, and you took it as a very, I think, very courageous point of departure, research and experimentation. Now, how came this collaboration with the Madre about, and why did it, you couldn't help the Madre to survive?
Yeah, with the activity of the Fondazione, we are now helping, contributing to survive the Madre. Every story is a different story because you have to relate it to the moment, to the political condition, to the social condition, and also to the case. In my case, in my case, talking about Madre has had some problems that I don't want to go in because it's very complex and also boring in a way. But has had a sort of stop on activity. The relationship with Madre were born before the Madre was in troubles, but for political reason was blocked. And now is totally another time open. The point is that the foundation was born before the Madre, and so the point is that I'm totally proud to have my own place, and so the only way to help the Madre was try to build up a project, an activity, experimental activity that was based on several but few contents. The research, basically, very strong and very serious, in my opinion, actually, and the production. So we have never exhibited exhibition that came from other museum, but just because we have a very clear also the social aspect of the art, and also the aspect that for me art is mainly also a media that can bring up the city, and also in the future. So when we see the Vesuvius of Warhol, we immediately think about Naples. When we see in the MoMA Fate Presto, the page of the newspaper in Mattino, we are thinking about Naples. So the point is that my idea is try to join the artist to the city through the work that they are doing. So for me, it's very, very important that the work not necessarily speaks about city, because I give total freedom to the artist. And you know that when you invite an artist and he stay for a while and he go back and he came in another time, also if the work is based on totally another topic, you will find always something that joined with the city, and we try to push that kind of point for try to obtain a sort of magnification way of the city. So
I find it so important also to hear that here in Brussels and in Belgium,
because we have continued to do what the public sector does with the help of the private sector.
Yeah, for me, the public sector has the size and the mentality to drive the way. And we are there to help or create new ideas or help change course. Well, there's no history and there's no money. So we can't hope too much about a great collection in Greece. But on the other hand, we have two very important contemporary art collections held by Greek individuals now. So we should try to solve that as a nation.
We should try to convince them to help the nation.
Yes, and the nation should be open to make sure that they do help the nation in the end, instead of being looked upon with suspicion of all sorts.
Ladies and gentlemen, you see that beyond the status collecting style and the web collecting style and the I like art accumulating style and the investor collecting style, these are very different collectors. No, they are enablers. They are also judges. They even dare still to be judgmental, because one of the greatest dangers for me of the visual arts world, that the visual arts world is celebrating the celebration, right? That you're not allowed to have judgment anymore. That you're a party pooper when you are critical, right? That's visual art. So these people are judgmental. They have a vision. And I want you to endorse them, and that's the reason why I want to take a vote. Who believes that the future of public museums is a completely new way of looking into public-private partnerships? Who of you believes that? Raise your hand. The future of public museums is a completely new way of negotiating public-private partnerships. Who is for this vote? Oh, we lost it. It's not a majority.